China's history is a very long one and difficult to track. It was founded in 221 BC and lasted about 21 centuries. There has been great controversy whether the Qi dynasty or the Shang dynasty came first. It is very important for them to figure this out so they can get an exact date of how far back China's history dates. The Shang dynasty was the second dynasty of China and was founded along the Yellow River. It was also known as the Yin dynasty. There is great discussion as the Qi dynasty was mythical and if that puts the Shang dynasty first. Nest dwellings were mainly used in low and damp areas. According to Su Lao, as early as 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, there was already some form of human settlement called the Hindu culture developing along the lower reaches of the Changjiang River. Setting up cave dwellings along the river was difficult because of the dampness. Therefore, they needed to be built on trees. This not only kept them from the damp floor, but also from animals. Woodwork knowledge was needed, and this leads scholars to believe that the knowledge available now dates back to this time. It is thought that the ancient civilizations would stay in caves during the winter and would move into nest dwellings during the summer. The way these nests were built were by laying twigs and leaves on the boughs to provide a surface, then adding more twigs and branches for extra shelter. The first type of tree dwellings were built on one tree, then were later on supported by four. Lastly, with buildings of dwellings in piles or gangland resembling houses. The support of these ganglands were piles thrust into the ground. It was difficult for them to put ganglands on dry land because of the limited tools they had. They moved from marshlands and onto dry lands. Columns were made out of wood to even out the weight. After progress was made for better ventilation and protection against the dampness, cave dwellings became more abundant. The lows that the Yellow River provided made the buildings of cave dwellings easier because it provided a good structural base. The narrow opening was meant to keep out the rain and wind during the wet and wintry seasons. The opening would be covered with a makeshift roof of twigs and branches. When not required, the covering was put aside, making this the earliest form of roof structure, making the shelter permanent. The bag-shaped layout was more of an obstruction instead of functionality. So they made an upright wall. As they gained more knowledge in building homes, they were eventually able to come out from underground. The primary tool to cut trees was a piece of rock that was tapered on one side that would fit in a slot on a handle, known as a stone axe. In order for them to make planks, they would use the top part of the stone axe as a wedge and space it off evenly in a trunk and then hammer them off. The tools during this time were still considered primitive, but are the background for the ones today. The slave population began around 2100 BC and lasted 1600 years. This population developed tremendously during the Shang dynasty. They were taught to do trade work, in which bronze was the most successful in social situations. Archaeological findings claim that China had a unique style, and the whole city was considered when it came to construction. Farming techniques were the same as in the Neolithic age. Main grains were used were millet and wheat that were fermented to make alcoholic beverages. Animals provided protein. Some were domesticated as working animals, rituals, and meat. Fish and fowl were bred, while turtles were used for the shells and divination. Since bronze was too valuable to be used in the field, they used stone and wooden tools, but used bronze for drinking purposes. Anyang was founded by King Panjung and became capital. Many objects have been found in tombs like bronze vessels, ceramics, and carved jade and ivory objects. 53 palaces, 13 temples, and 11 mausoleums were found in this city, which tell a lot about everyday life in Shang dynasty. Zhangzhou is considered one of the oldest towns in China. It could have been the city of Ao, capital for the 10th Shang king. Many cities were built due to the fact that the capital was moved around regularly. A new tamping technique was created to build higher structures. The ditch would first be dug and then packed tightly with dirt. Wooden boards would hold up the dirt as it was packed. These boards would be fitted together to form the shape of a rectangular box. Earth would be tightly packed inside and then the boards were removed. This procedure was repeated until the wall was completely finished. This new system was an update to their building technology, allowing faster and more work being done, adding a surface of crushed limestone so it wouldn't wash away. One of these walls was found at the city of Anyang. Farmers found these dragon bones, which revealed them as truth instead of myths. Oracle bones discovered up to 4,000 characters, containing information from historical events and divination. Some of these symbols now resemble the ones today in modern-day China. Kings would consult their higher gods and ancestors for advice on many subjects. The diviner's and king's name would be on the bones along with the date in question. When it was thrown into the fire, it would crack, and the answer would have to be translated from the crack. Bronze work was used for many things, but mainly ritual vessels. Bronze was first used for pottery, and after a while, potter's skills developed tremendously. Instruments and animal masks were made. Some masks weighed over 300 pounds. The lost wax method was used to make creations out of bronze. Most bronze artifacts survived because they were buried with people. Like in the case of Fu Hao's tomb, where over more than 1,000 pieces made of bronze and jade were found.